Hello and welcome to another episode of A Fresh Perspective here on Heavenward Thinking. Today we're continuing our progress in Romans chapter 12. We're going to be in verses 9 through 21 and see how far we get through that this week. But we're going to start with that, so I'll read it and we'll get right into our conversation today. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of lowly position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge. I will repay," says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So as we look at this passage, it's a very detailed passage, something that maybe is familiar for a lot of Christians. This is really what the Christian life is supposed to look like. How can we begin to apply all of these things to our life, knowing that we're never going to really fulfill it perfectly?
Well, I think that's the key, right? We begin by saying, yeah, you can't do this, right? You're not going to get it all, right?
Nope.
I like, when I look at this list, I like to start it at the end, right? The game plan is, how about if we don't be overcome by evil, right? So again, we know this world is evil. We know this world is bad. We know this world has bad things in it, right? We have a sin nature. We know all these things. And the goal of the enemy is to overtake you, right? To take away from you the plan and the purpose that God has for you. So every day, every minute that he can get you focused on things that are ungodly, then he is a step closer to overtaking you with evil. And every day and every minute that you can take a step towards being more godly, that you're taking a step away from being overtaken by evil. And that's the game plan. That's what we're doing. It's this big chess match, right, where God's trying to put us in the right places, the right to win, right, and the enemy's trying to get us to get out of the right place in the right moment so we can lose, right? Again, there's no winning for the enemy. He simply wants you and I to lose.
Absolutely. And the key to this, as you mentioned, it's not being overcome by evil, but more than that is to overcome evil with good. We have a whole list here of things. If we start from the back, we see that the key to overcoming the evil is with good, and that good is described in detail here for us. So there's all these different things that we should be doing that gets us focused on good things and gets us, like you said, in a better place where we're not stepping towards evil. We're not being overcome by evil, where the enemy isn't winning. If we are doing these things that are listed above this verse, then we're going to be on the right path, as you said. We're going to be pursuing the good things, not the bad things. And we're going to be able to live out our Christian faith so that when people see us, they see Jesus shining through us, not someone being overcome by evil and just looking like the rest of the world.
Yeah, so I mean, what he does is he gives us the end result is we want to overcome evil by good, right? The evil of this world, God is looking to constantly overcome it. Period. Right. That's the end of the whole idea in the Promised Land. You were just reading from the beginning, right? God's whole purpose was that he would get this group of people, right? This man in Abraham, and then there's this family, this group of people called the Israelites, and that he would so be able to bless them, so be able to be a part of what they're doing, that other people would look at it and they would want that you would overcome the evil in this world because of that, right? Then it got to Jesus, and it's, hey, let's overcome the evil of this world with Jesus. He'll die on a cross, he'll be resurrected, he'll ascend into heaven, and man, we're going to be good. But the problem is, it doesn't take away the evil. It helps us overcome the evil. And I think that that's important, right? And then God says, I'm not going to just leave you hanging on this, hey, go out there and overcome evil. Go do it yourself. You were talking about that extensively. I hope people watch you from the beginning in Genesis chapter 24, because that's the whole idea. It's not your job. We got to seek God. And then God gives us a whole list of, you want to overcome evil with good, then let's do this, right? Let's do these things in this list.
Absolutely. And that gets us focused in the right place. It gets us doing the right things. And then when we're seeking after God, when we're seeking His will, His way, which is described in detail in this chapter, then we're going to be able to overcome the evil with the good. That's how we're going to be able to win souls for Christ. It's how we're going to be able to shine in a dark world. And that's really what this whole chapter is all about. So taking it a little bit further, how can we really start to apply each of these things? We see that love must be sincere, hate what is evil, cling to what is good. That's a good starting place for application. How can we do that, though?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, listen, we talk about love and we don't love, right? We find reasons to dislike people. We find reasons to, we hear all the time. You and I have talked about this recently. A bunch of other people have talked about. We find reasons to be out of relationship with people. We come up with this whole thing. I don't have to like people. So you don't have to like somebody. You still have to love them. You still have to treat them with respect. You have to do all of the. Love is sincere. Love is genuine. You got to do 1 Corinthians 13. So listen, here's my question. How hard is it to do 1 Corinthians 13 for people that you like? You still got to do it for people you don't like. So why are you going out of your way not liking somebody that's just going to make all of that harder? How much fun is it to protect somebody you don't like? How hard is it to trust somebody you don't like? How hard is it to not keep a record of wrongs for somebody you don't like? How hard is it? I mean, we do this all the time, right? Christianity is super hard, right? So if you're going to find reasons to not like somebody, well, you're not sincere in love, because love doesn't keep a record of wrong. So if you talk to me and you tell me this person did this, and this, listen, I'm going to tell you that you probably are being overcome by evil. It does not matter what that person did. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter how evil you think they are. You're the one that's supposed to be loving, so you need to find reasons and ways to actually love somebody. It's sincere, right? It's not, I'm just going to love the people I want to love. Thanks for letting me preach.
Absolutely. And I think that's really key, though, to this whole section, because it spends most of this, there's certain things like being joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer, but most of this section is based on human relationships with each other and being in harmony, having an attitude of peace, making sure that we're making peace with people as far as it depends on us, and associating with lowly people, and forgiving, and all these different things. Don't pay back evil for evil. So much of it is focused on this need to love people well, to treat people right, even when they don't treat us right themselves. We are not to pay them back evil for evil. I don't think it could get much more pointed than the end passage, starting in verse 17 through the end, really, of not repaying anyone evil for evil and letting God be the one who judges, letting God have the vengeance, not us. It's not on our responsibility to do that. We're supposed to do what is our responsibility, which is to love, to be kind, to be devoted to one another in love, honoring people, to be all these different things that go towards having unity in the body of Christ, and to having peaceful relationships with people, rather than all this hostility, which is really what this whole section is trying to show us. We need to be loving to people, we need to have the right attitudes and the right actions, and then that's what's going to attract other people to the Christian faith. That's what's going to show people that we're different, and that's how we're going to be able to put it in practice, what we talked about in the previous segments on Romans chapter 12 of serving as the body of Christ and offering ourselves as a daily sacrifice. Only if we put these things into practice will we really be able to do those things.
Yeah, man, that's a good sermon right there. You might have to preach in church on Sunday, because that's exactly the way that it sums it up well. Most of the rest of this is relational in nature. The part that I like the most out of this, I love all of it. I've been preaching it, going to keep preaching it. It'll take forever because I love every part of it. But it's do what is honorable in the sight of all. Listen, all of us can find the person who will go, yeah, Andy, go ahead, do it. Right? Oh, Timothy, yep. What you're doing is right. No. Why don't you go to the people that you know don't like you, right? And ask them if what you're doing is honorable, if it's right, right? Again, you're always going to find the person who's saying what you're doing is wrong, right? But you look at the whole bigger picture, right? You look at the bigger picture and say, no, you need to do what's honorable in front of everybody, right? Now, again, that gives people, you're going to point it out on me and I'm going to point it out on you, and that has problems because we don't repay evil for evil, right? It is a super hard thing, this entire section, but you can't get away from the fact that all it really is about is loving people. right? If you love people well, you're not going to keep a record of wrong, so you're not going to repay evil for evil because you don't even know what they did, because you aren't keeping a record of what's wrong, right? You're going to protect people, you're going to trust people, but the key to 1 Corinthians 13 is love never fails. Never, ever, ever does it fail, which means it's going to do this no matter what. Well, you're going to overcome evil pretty quickly if you got love that never fails.
Absolutely, and that's the key to this section, making sure that we have that perspective and making sure that we are loving people well, making sure that we are seeking to do each of these things, because this is something that is an instruction for each and every one of us as Christians. This isn't just a, hey, this is probably good if you do these things. It starts out by saying love must be sincere. These things are things that we must be doing, never doing certain things, and always doing certain things. So these aren't just guidelines that we're supposed to somewhat know. These are things that we're supposed to be putting into practice on a daily basis to make sure that we're really living this way. And as I've mentioned multiple times, this is really relational, and not just in a Christian community, but as Christians living in secular places, living in a secular world that's very hostile towards Christianity. If we're treating people well, and we're blessing those who persecute us, bless and do not curse, if we're able to treat people who aren't Christians and who hate us, if we're able to treat those people well, then that's how people are really going to start to notice that there's something different about us. But if we're repaying other Christians back with evil for evil, and if we're doing that towards non-Christians, then they're going to quickly be turned away, and they're going to go, you're just like everyone else. And that we're called to be different than everyone else. We're not going to be perfect, as we've seen throughout Romans. We're never going to be perfect, but we're supposed to be living according to the ways of Christ. We're supposed to be living after the pattern of Christ. And this chapter shows us what are the things that Christ did. He did all of these things perfectly. So we should try to do these things as well.
Yeah, well said. And so, you look at things and you say, again, the second that I want to repay evil, the second that I want vengeance, right? We're not only out of relationship with other people, but we're out of relationship with God. Because if you think that God is your professional hitman, you're crazy, right? God cares about somebody coming to a saving knowledge of Him. So guess what? If sending somebody to jail, if God knows, hey, I'm going to send you to jail like Joseph, and you know what? It's going to come to fill my plan, God will let that happen. But if God knows that by keeping a person out of jail, it's going to get their heart turned towards Him, then He's going to do whatever He needs to do to keep them out of jail. And it doesn't matter what I think about the whole thing. Listen, that is so important, this concept of, like, if I want to overcome evil, I have to look at the way I talk. I love what you just said. The way I talk and the way I walk, right? People are paying attention. So they know whether you like somebody or not. And you can say, well, I don't have to like people as a Christian, right? Right, but if your talk goes beyond not liking somebody and goes to, I'm not for somebody, now you got a problem. You cross the line. There's no way to talk. If you don't like somebody, there's very little way for you to talk about that person without crossing a line. So you do yourself a favor. Don't talk about them, right? Don't talk about them, because there's no way you're going to not cross that line. And again, now the second you cross that line, now God says, I'm going to have vengeance. Right now, you've crossed the line, and that's where the evil comes in. Right, that it's as simplistic as that. It's not this, you're going to be a mass murderer, right? It's, you're going to kill somebody with your words, right? And again, the second you start doubting somebody's relationship with Christ, you've crossed a line, right? That you can say, hey, listen, your fruit don't look so good. I'm going to treat you as if you're unsaved. That just means you've got to evangelize them. You got to do all kinds of other stuff, because you want, I guess my question would be, how many people really want to overcome evil with good?
And that's a great question, I think, to leave our viewers with. Are you willing to take this into consideration and not just consider it, but to really apply it to your life? Are you willing to live according to Romans chapter 12 and these principles, so that you're loving people well, you're acting as a Christian and talking as a Christian, so that, like you said, our walk and our talk are both matching our faith in Jesus Christ? And are we going to overcome evil with good, or are we going to be overcome by evil ourselves? And that's the question we're going to leave you with this week. And join us next time as we begin Romans chapter 13 here on A Fresh Perspective on Heavenward Thinking.